You've done everything right. You went to school, you passed the exams, you got the grades, maybe the job, maybe the relationship, maybe every box they said to tick. And yet, there's this feeling that follows you, quiet but persistent, like you're watching your own life from slightly outside of it, like everyone around you somehow received a manual you never got. You feel anxious without knowing why. You apologize without meaning to. You help others before yourself, then feel empty when you do. You reach the things you chased and feel nothing when you get there. If any of that feels familiar, you're not broken. You're not weak. You're not failing at life. You were just never taught how your own mind works. In 1892, the United States government convened what they called the Committee of 10. Their task: decide what American schools would teach for generations to come. Their answer shaped education for the next 130 years. Mathematics, language, science, history. Not because these were the most important things for a human being to know, but because they were the most measurable. And measurable meant manageable. The things that actually determine how well a life goes, how you regulate your emotions, how you build real relationships, how you create security, how you find meaning, were considered too complex, too personal, too unquantifiable, so they were left out. And when they were left out of the classroom, they weren't picked up at home, because your parents went through the same system, and their parents before them. The gap didn't start with you. It was inherited, generation after generation of people told to figure it out, told that struggling meant weakness, told that maturity meant silence. Nobody taught them, and so nobody taught you. There are 4 systems nobody taught us, and every pattern in your adult life, every anxiety, every relationship that ends the same way, every financial stress, every moment of wondering, why am I like this, can be traced back to a gap in one of these 4 areas. The first, psychology, how your mind actually works. The cognitive biases that distort your thinking every single day without you noticing. The way your brain is wired to seek safety over truth, pattern over reality, comfort over growth. The psychological systems running underneath your decisions like an operating system you've never opened. Most people go their entire lives without understanding their own psychology. They call their patterns just who they are. They're not. They're programs, and programs can be rewritten. The second, emotional intelligence, not the motivational poster version. The real thing. You were never taught what to do when something small sets you off completely. Why a certain tone of voice can shut you down in seconds. Why conflict makes you either go silent or say things you regret. That's not a personality flaw. That's an untrained skill. And emotional intelligence, the real kind, not the poster version, is trainable. The third, childhood conditioning. The version of you that shows up in arguments, in intimacy, in moments of failure or success. That version was largely shaped before you were 7 years old. Your attachment style, your beliefs about whether you deserve love, your relationship with authority, with money, with your own needs. The voice in your head that tells you you're not enough. That voice has a name, it has an origin, and it is not your permanent identity. Understanding where your patterns came from is the beginning of being able to choose differently. The fourth, life architecture. Money, not as mathematics, but as psychology. Decision-making under uncertainty. The systems of modern life that nobody decoded for you. What compound interest actually does to your future. Why you feel guilty spending money even when it's yours. Why financial stress doesn't go away when the money arrives. What taxes and debt and work actually are when nobody is trying to sell you something. These 4 systems, psychology, emotional intelligence, childhood conditioning, and life architecture, are the curriculum that was missing. This channel is the course you never got. It's 2 a.m. and you can't explain why you're anxious. You just are. You've been that way for years. That's what the gap looks like in a body. It shows up as anxiety that has no clear source, the kind that answers the question, why am I always anxious, with nothing. Just noise. It shows up as the inability to rest without guilt. As relationships that follow the same painful arc, no matter how many times you try to do it differently. As the automatic apology that comes before you've even processed what happened. It shows up as the person who is always the helper, and never the one who asks for help. As the one who says, "I'm fine," before they've even checked. It shows up in the way you handle money, either holding it too tightly out of fear, or letting it disappear before it can make you feel safe. Behaviors that look like choices, but are survival strategies left over from a childhood that's long gone. Research from Harvard Center on the Developing Child shows that the neural pathways for emotional regulation are primarily formed before age 5, before you could read, before you had language for what you were feeling, before you had any choice in what you were learning. You inherited a nervous system shaped by environments you didn't choose. You received an education designed for a world that no longer exists. And then you were sent into adult life and told, figure it out. This channel exists because of that gap. Nobody Taught Us is not a self-help channel. It's not motivation. It's not a place to come when you want to feel temporarily inspired and then forget it by tomorrow. It's a course, the one that should have existed. Every video on this channel is one piece of the curriculum that was left out. One system explained, one pattern decoded, one thing you were never taught, given back to you. We're going to explore how your psychology actually works, beneath the stories you tell yourself about who you are. We're going to trace your patterns back to where they began, not to assign blame, but to give you the one thing that changes everything: understanding. We're going to rebuild emotional intelligence from the ground up as a skill that can genuinely be learned. We're going to look at childhood conditioning because the truth of where you came from is not a wound, it's a map. And we're going to talk about money, work, adulting, and modern life as the systems they actually are, not as moral judgments about your worth. Everything schools and parents forgot to teach us, we're teaching it here. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not fundamentally difficult or too much or not enough. You were handed an incomplete map, and you've been trying to navigate with it ever since. The confusion you felt, the anxiety, the patterns, the 3 a.m. question of why am I like this? That was never a personal failing. It was the gap, and gaps can be filled. If anything in this video describes something you've been living but never had words for, subscribe, because what comes next is everything they forgot to teach you. And for the first time, you're going to have a real choice about what comes next. In the next video, we're starting with something most people don't expect. Not emotions, not childhood, not money. We're starting with the one thing almost every person on Earth does automatically, and that psychology says is quietly keeping them stuck. Most people have been doing it their entire lives. They were taught it was strength. Psychology calls it something else entirely. It has a name, and once you know it, you can't unsee it. That's next.